Welcome to Inside the Leader's Mind, where what's in the way becomes the way. I'm your host, David Susan, and I'm excited to have my guest with me today, Rakesh Dhawan. He's a leader who builds more than technology. He builds people and teams that change industries. Over the course of 2 decades, Rakesh has founded multiple companies from scratch, scaling teams from zero to over 70 professionals across various continents. At Power Electronics Group, he expanded his electrical engineering team by 500%, not just by recruiting top talent, by, but by fostering a culture where innovation thrives and engineers reach their full potential through mentorship, coaching, and cross functional collaboration. With degrees from IIT Kharagpur, the University of Minnesota, and an MBA from Old Dominion, Rakesh has led organizations through rapid transformation, slashing product development cycles by 75%, improving manufacturing quality with Six Sigma methodologies, and positioning companies to capture hundreds of millions in new market opportunities. But what drives him isn't just the patents or the product launches, it's the impact on people. As a sought after workshop leader and mentor, Rakesh believes that outstanding leadership entails demonstrating integrity, fostering trust, and empowering every team member to reach their full potential. For him, leadership is ultimately about leaving people better than you found them. Rakesh, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, David. That was amazing, and I'm very grateful to be here.
Well, I'm excited to be here. I love talking to people that are kind of in this tech world, just because that's the world I come from initially. I want to start with just a little bit about what you are currently doing. What is it your business currently does now? And that is
So
Power Electronics Group, right?
that's right. That's right. So
Okay.
so today, we are integrating artificial intelligence into our design process. So we are looking at being able to develop products, motors and inverters, and be able to develop products from concept to, let's say, production in 90 days. And the reason that is possible is that we can actually have now ability to have, let's say, over 100 years of knowledge base on our fingertips. And we can also, we are looking at continuous development and teaching of our neural networks, which we are building in-house to be able to train them with our knowledge, with our techniques, with our methodologies, so that we can produce products, we can develop products faster. Because this is a niche market, right? So it's a highly specialized market. Power electronics, today, the power electronics is used virtually everywhere. Electric vehicles, you have windmills, you have sustainable energy, solar power. Everywhere you see, you have power electronics. And also, you have tremendous amount of development in terms of devices, wide band gap devices, silicon carbide, gallium nitride. So the whole landscape is changing. So we have an advent of number of technologies which are coming together. And I think it becomes challenging to produce products faster. And so when we combine the machine learning methodologies and neural networks and all the optimization algorithms and are able to train our neural networks with our knowledge, with our expertise, then it gives us superpowers to be able to take a concept from concept to production in 90 days. That's our goal. That's what we are working on at this point in time.
And for people that are not familiar with, let's say, manufacturing, production, design, development, you say 90 days. Give them a sense of what it would have been like without all this neural network technology, AI. Instead of 90 days, it would have been. what
So
potentially in the
normally,
past.
yeah, so normally you're potentially looking at, depending upon the industry, you're looking at anywhere from 2 to 4 years. You also have in the regulatory approvals because when you design a product and anything to do with safety or anything that comes in touch with the end user, with a human being, it has to follow certain safety protocols. And safety protocols, safety compliances normally can take a lot of time, right? So, if I build a product, I have to go through UL approval, and UL approval can take a long time, right? So I really need to be able to engage the UL agencies ahead of time, but that's the timeline you're looking at, 2 to 4 years to be able to launch a product into market. And we only
And
shorten that whole time frame to 90 days.
that's crazy. That is crazy. What are you seeing right now, other than regulatory issues? What are you seeing right now as one of the biggest challenges to getting new product to market?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is that we struggle to have an optimum solution, and then we struggle to be able to finish the testing on time because you want to be able to. The most important part is the product has to be safe and has to be cost effective, and then it has to meet its specifications, right? So all of those three goals have to be met for a product to be launched into the marketplace. So, so what happens is normally, you've heard of recalls, mainly from automotive companies, where although automotive products go through massive amount of testing, right? Even then, there is lapses that cannot be, controlled. Lapse because of a supplier, lapse because of design, lapse for some reason or the other, right? So, so, so you end up, what does that do to a company? The company becomes more cautious. That's why we need to do more testing. We need to do more reviews. We need to do more DFMEAs, design for manufacturability analysis. So you basically load your team up with more and more analysis, more and more testing. So the idea is, okay, how do you compress now your analysis and your testing into a short time period so that you can become highly competitive in the market and also have a highly optimized, safe, and well-performing product?
And let me ask from a standpoint of leadership, have you in the past or currently, doesn't matter, ever gone down the path to build a product, to build a solution, and as you were going down the path to build it, competition came out and beat you to it dramatically, or and so you maybe had to back off, or you went down a path and realized this is not right. Has that ever happened where you're investing this time and effort and then you're just going, wait a minute, why are we doing this? It's
So
not going
many
to make money.
times.
It's not going to fly.
I have so many battle wounds, David. It's not even funny. And I would say I have missed so many opportunities because I have been late to them. I mean, I was early. I'll tell you a story. Okay, so we were the first company in the e-bike space to have this revolutionary technology, right? And we introduced
Bikes.
it, yeah, bike, electric bicycles, right?
Okay.
We were the first one to have a phone app in 2011. We're talking about 2011 timeframe. First one to have a phone app, and the apps were not that prevalent. First one to have a wireless console. First one to have this amazing electric motor, right? But but along came Bosch in 2011, right? With a different kind of solution, and and we had we were a young team. We were not as obviously big as Bosch, and it took us good 6 7 years to be able to perfect that product. And by that time, the market had already moved over, Bosch had issues. They had also the recalls, but they were a company with big pockets. But even then, our timing, although we were the first in the market, we were the first in the great concept, we uh, we basically lost the market. Lost the
Oh
market because
my.
by the time we perfected the product, uh, it was the market had gone, far beyond where we had anticipated. So
So
there are several stories like that.
how do you as a leader, how do you continue to motivate your team or keep your team from getting depressed or because they put all this time and effort in to see it essentially go nowhere.
Yeah, I think so. Part of it is we generate a lot of great knowledge, right? So we are basically, even though we have failures, we learn a great deal, right? We have quite extraordinary ability to create knowledge, even through failures. So we learn a lot. We learn a lot from every product launch. We learn a lot from every failure. And then we always are trying to say, okay, what can we do next to really establish our competitiveness, establish our ingenuity, establish our creativity. And I think this is our opportunity where we have now a confluence of number of technologies that are really exciting. And I think we can leverage this one. Knock on wood, better than other
Fingers
companies.
crossed.
Fingers
Yeah.
crossed. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
fingers crossed.
yes.
I think it's called Inside the Leader's Mind. Um, and I always say the tagline is what's in the way becomes the way. What is something, excuse me, what is something as you look back over the years, and you kind of answered it, but maybe a little more specific, um, something that in your career that really was in the way, and
Oh, I think
that be
yeah.
that became the way, something you
Well, I
really
think
learned from.
yeah, I think I'm always into it. To be honest, I'm always a choke point. I think my background. I am an engineer and a scientist at the heart. And so when I launched or developed the technology the first time, I had this notion that developing technology was the most important part. And I had no interest in dealing with customers, going to trade shows, talking to investors, looking at finances, looking at the books, right? I had zero interest in all this, right? So I'm a scientist, I'm an engineer, I want to develop product. And so you develop this product, like, now what? Well, you're going to sell it, right? And I was the biggest choke point. It's like, okay, now you got to learn new. So all of a sudden I realized that to run a company, you have to master, 99% skills I did not have, right? 99% skills, 1%. And then it became, also apparent that developing great technology doesn't build great businesses, right? So it's really, as Steve Jobs, rightly said, you're going to have a great product, right? And you're going to have great marketing, and you're going to have great distribution, right? So, I mean, that's basically the equation.
So simple, so
It's so
simple,
simple.
not easy. Simple, but not easy. So I'm fascinated by entrepreneurs. Fascinated by people like you. What was it that led you to do this versus just working inside of a company your whole life and just being, head of product development or engineering? But what, why did you choose this path instead of that path?
Well, I think the So I'll tell you, I think being an entrepreneur actually gives you a great work life balance. I don't have to, and also when you have your own company, you don't have to be at work at 9 o'clock sharp. I can go to the gym, I can work out, I can think about things, I can spend 6 hours learning on something. I can control my day, I can control my schedule, I can control my health, I can control my relationships, right? So I think the biggest advantage of being an entrepreneur is really having a great, yes, I have seen, I was part of entrepreneurs organization in Washington, D.C., where I see entrepreneurs really having a lack of balance. They basically would screw up their family life, they would screw up their financial life, and the focus is only the business, right? So to me, that is doesn't have to be the case. That really doesn't have to be the case. The you can have a full control over all three aspects of your life: the business, the finances, and the family life. And I think that's the greatest asset you can have. You don't have to grind yourself to ground. You don't really have to. So I think I see that as a great plus point of being able to run your own company.
Yeah. But it's not for everyone. It's hard to be self-motivated. It's hard to people always think it's easy until they try it and they go,
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
really hard, you know.
Oh, it's always hard. Yeah, I think it's always hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I want to shift gears a little bit. In the introduction, you talked a lot about people and building people. What, especially as an engineer, what's the moment you realized that you loved building people, maybe even more than building product?
Yeah, for me, it was a hard shift. Being an engineer, one of the things I thrive on is being able to learn. And so when I developed or designed or invented products, uh, I would like to hold everything close to my chest. And then you have a team. So okay, the team has to do something, right? So, and then finally, I had to give up the control. I said, okay, I'm going to have hardware team. I'm going to have a software team. I'm going to have a test team. I'm going to have a manufacturing team. So as I began to delegate, I actually saw that we were accelerating in execution of various tasks. Right. So that was to me very empowering. Somebody who could add to my knowledge, add to the company's value, add to the customer satisfaction. It was very rewarding. Right. So, um, and I do miss, somebody's working on a hard problem, and I say, shit, I should be in the middle of that, right? You always want to get into the middle of the hardest engineering problem. And I think, and I get to do that, as well, because I can control my time and I make time for it. But I think that was the hardest transition for me. I remember one of my bosses, he said, Einsteins don't make great company. Says you
It's a
got to have a team.
yeah.
Yeah, it says you got to have a team to be able to build a great company, right? So no matter how smart you are, no matter how resourceful you are, if you don't have a team, you can't make a great company.
It's when you make that comment, I always think of Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, and how they grew to billions of dollars with an engineer or a techie or someone who did that. What do you think the best leaders do really, really well that allows them to grow their business so significantly?
I think uh, I think the best thing they can do is hire people better than them. I think that's the number one part, and that's very tough. I mean, I have to me to be able to locate great talent and then to be able to pursue them and to be able to get them to join your company, I think is a hard process. It's not an easy process, it's a hard process. And I think first few hires are going to be astronomically difficult but that's what it takes, that you got to have these amazingly talented people willing to work with you.
What do you look for in a new hire today?
Well, I think depending on the level, if it is somebody who is starting out in a career, I look for aptitude, I look for enthusiasm, I look for resourcefulness. I think resourcefulness is big on my list. It's like, okay, you hit a brick wall. How resourceful are you to be able to break down the wall, right? So resourcefulness is always number one on my list. And then, of course, with the experience, obviously you're looking for expertise along with resourcefulness. But resourcefulness is something that I always look for in people. Is they should be able to bang against the wall and never give up. So
Determine that. How do you find that in someone? I mean, it's easy to read a resume that says I did XYZ, but how do you really find the best people that are resourceful?
yeah, I think so. You can ask them, what problem you faced and how you solved it, right? So, if they come up with excuses, if they, for engineers it's easy. If you have an engineer and who's working on a project, right, and uh, and uh, and you can find out how resourceful they have been because, okay, what happened? Did the project get completed? What impediments did you face? What obstacles did you come over, right, to overcome? So you can actually determine resourcefulness by saying, okay, how many times did you hit the brick wall, and how many times you still decided to move forward?
And hopefully you get an answer that makes you feel comfortable with that, correct?
Yeah, I think it's a you find somebody who says I never give up and I tried, you know, uh, 50 times and I'm still trying. It's like, okay, you're my guy. Come on, let's go. But again,
Although sometimes you got to cut your losses and move on, though, right?
yes, yes,
A little
yes,
bit,
yes. Well, I
yeah.
think it's a uh, depending upon kind of problem you're facing, right? And that's the part where I'm not a pure businessman. For me, it's the passion. Sometimes determine your approach.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Yet, in the intro, you talked about leaving people better than you found them. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I think so. My interaction with people normally, I do like to place everybody on a pedestal, right? Even if they are junior, I like to place them on a pedestal. I like to have them, I want to admire them, I want to respect them, I want to basically give them every possible tool to showcase their skills in the best possible way. And what I have found is, and in the, and also there are some programs, in the company we have, meditation for a few minutes. We have, what do you call, being able have a session of gratefulness, have a session of, we're grateful to be here, we're grateful to be able to work on these interesting problems, interesting products, etc. So I think my goal is always to have tremendous amount of positive energy into the group and and so 99% of the time I am very positive. I'm putting on a pedestal, but then 1% of the time I will show my teeth, where I would say, okay, this needs to get done now, right? So, but people respond very well, right? People know that this is the goal, I'm going towards the goal, and they are able to back me up really well. So I think the key is, so to me, I feel that they are now eager, with that environment, they are eager to grow. They're eager to contribute. They're eager to really better. So I get great reports. I get great reports. We did this and we did this, we did this. Also, few rituals we follow. We have a ritual called daily rhythm. First thing in the morning, what was the number one priority yesterday? What is the number one priority today? Right? It's a short meeting, but it primes the day with those kind of rituals.
I like that. It's something that I don't know if everyone does that, but for my listeners, it's one of the things I coach executives and teams on is that doing just that is that every morning look at it and say, what is that one most important thing to get done, or the two or three most important things? And the way I always phrase this is that if that was the only thing we accomplished today, it would still be a good day.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, the day gets, I don't, have you ever had this happen? The day slips by, you're like, oh my gosh, what did I get done today? And a lot of people do that. So I'm like, hey, do just like you said, what's, and I phrase it a little bit differently, but not just the number one priority, but what is the one thing, two things, three things if I got done today and that was all I got done, it would still be a great day because
Right.
they're so important. But sometimes those important things get pushed behind because we end up taking care of urgent things or we get distracted or we lose sight, lose track. How do you keep your team in addition to that? How do you keep them on track? How do you make sure they're doing the right things um, and staying motivated doing them?
Yeah. So I think one interesting thing I found is it doesn't matter whether you have a small team or a big team. Communication is always difficult, and so as a result, it's very easy to get lost in the weeds. It's so super easy to get lost in the weeds. So the only way to keep the team on track is really have a short meeting at the beginning of the day.
Mhm.
Very short meeting. It doesn't have to be, I have 4 to 5 direct reports. I basically say, okay, what is your number one priority today? Tell me about your day yesterday. What are we doing today? So I think we get together and talk about the priorities, and I think that communication is so important, so vital. And
Yeah,
also, we talk about the mission we are on, right? So that we remind ourselves what the goal is, what the mission is, so that we can continue to move forward. So to me, the key is the first thing in the morning communication, and I think it
love that.
helps tremendously.
Love that. As you look at leadership in your own life, was there a leader, someone in your career, in your life that had the biggest influence on how you lead?
Yeah, I think so. I really listen to a lot of podcasts. Tony Robbins, um, Jim Rohn,
Hmm.
is another one. Then Brian Tracy, the other one.
Hmm.
I think so. That's my daily routine in the morning is to be able to go when I'm working out. I'm listening to these guys, right? And I think from my personal experience, uh, I did have a boss back in South Dakota, a great man by the name of Mike Strandell, who I think I thought was a great boss. And I learned a great deal from him. Actually, the quote, Einstein's, don't make great company came from him. And so I observed him. I was very young. I think I was in my 20s when uh, he made me, a manager. I was just barely out of college, and so he made me a manager of a small group of engineers, and I had no idea how to lead it, how to lead. And so when I would go to the meetings, I would become extremely defensive. And he says there is no need to be defensive. You have a team, rely on the team, lean on the team, have the team, you know, learn and get answers. So I think that was an important lesson for me: is teams are more important than one individual.
What about today as you look at some of the challenges that maybe you as a leader deal with people in addition to communication and leaning on them? Any other challenges that you tend to deal with now? You say, you know what, I'm an 8, but I want to move to a 10, or I'm a 7, I want to get to a 10. Like, what's an area of leadership, people leadership, especially, that you look at in the mirror and you go, you know what, I wish I was better at this. I need there's still room to get better.
Yeah, so I think I mean, I personally want to balance people's work-life balance along with the aggressive business goals, right? So it's always, I think, a catch-22 is how hard do you push them and at the same time have them lead a very fulfilling life, right? So that always a challenge for me is how do you build a great company without burning out your people, without burning out your best people, and uh, and I think and I struggle with that because my tendency is, you can get lost in the mission, in the passion, and then you can clock easily 12-hour days, 14-hour days working on. I mean, that's how some of the great companies have been built, unfortunately. Right? If you listen to Elon Musk's story, I mean, he drives his teams crazy. Right? If you listen to Steve Jobs' stories, he drove his teams crazy. He was abusive in many respects, right? So, and I struggle with that part. Is okay. I really don't want to be abusive, right? At the same time, we need to meet our business goals without fail.
Do you have a strategy when you have to give feedback to someone? Do you have a strategy or approach that you use to be able to do it effectively?
I think my approach is very direct. I don't want to sugarcoat it. It's really very direct. If it's not working, it's not working, right? And if it's the problem, it's the problem, right? So it's very direct. Um, I'm normally uh, I'm very generous with my praise, but I'm also very and I'm very blunt with my negative feedback as well.
How does that come across to your team members?
So I think 99% of the time they feel love, but when they get a shock, I think they want to get back to the love part of it. So it's very effective.
What what is, if you look at your team members, what is one thing that your team members might say about you if they had one word to describe you? What would it be?
That's a tough one. Pain in the ass.
I guess if you hyphenate it, that's kind of one word. PETA, PETA,
Yes.
mm, pain in the ass. No,
Well, I think
no,
it's
no.
yeah. I really don't. I don't know. Um, I mean, I hope they feel that I bring value to their life, right? I think that's my goal, right? I mean, to me, everything else is really not relevant. What's relevant is the time we spend together. I think that's precious, right? So to me, we it's good to be driven by passion And then it is also good to have a great amount of companionship and camaraderie and be able to laugh together. So I think I cherish my time, and I hope that they feel that I bring a lot of value to their life.
And we're saying beyond just building the company, beyond building a great product, beyond the technology, you're saying the people actually matter.
Oh yeah, I think
Am
that's
that what I'm
that.
hearing?
Well, I think that is the most important part, right? Technology is the byproduct, money is the byproduct. I think it is our interaction which is magical, right? I mean, to me, when we look back at our life, we're only going to remember the experiences, right? Product, it doesn't matter. Technology doesn't matter. Money doesn't matter. What matters is these magical memories we create in the process.
Has this always been your philosophy, or is this something that you had a moment and something changed for you where you got the
Well,
aha moment to say, hey, it's all about people?
well, I think it's been evolutionary. I remember when I started electric motion systems. I was working with one investor, and he used to say that if we didn't have to deal with people, business would be so much easier. So, right, because he was so focused on what do you call the results,
Yeah.
right? And to me, that was an interesting perspective. That was an interesting perspective. But I think and that was back in 2005, 2006, right? And uh, and he didn't care about people. He didn't care about people at all, right? He cared about, okay, what results we have. But I think I realized that over a period of time, that you can really get great results when you have these magical moments with people. And when you can empower them, you can show them what they can achieve, when you can show them how wonderful they are in their skills, in their mannerism, in their behavior. So I think people respond strongly to that positive vibe. People want to, you put the people on a pedestal, they want to stay on, they want to achieve, they will achieve that pedestal, right? They want to achieve, so to me, and at the end of the day, it becomes a lot more fulfilling that we have a lot of positive energy and we can achieve something great together.
Love that. Do you think from the other leaders that you've met over the last, say, 5, 10 years, do you think they have a similar philosophy, or do you think they have more the traditional philosophy like this other gentleman you were talking about?
Well, I think it's different companies. I mean, I have now experience with a lot of companies, and I think different. I've seen the entrepreneurs always have different philosophy than, let's say, your corporate managers or corporate vice presidents, etc. Right? It's very different mindset, very different ways of looking at things. The corporate executives are normally very analytical. They're also more people oriented, so it's an interesting approach. For example, if you're a Microsoft executive, there is going to be a very hybrid approach. You basically are going to CYA, cover your ass, do a lot of analysis, and also be people oriented because you don't want to piss people off, right? So it's a very conservative approach to safeguard your interests. Whereas if you are working with Elon Musk, he is going to drive you crazy, right? Is basically going to drive you crazy, and you have to be prepared to take their views, right? So to me, um, I forgot your question. What was the question?
Just about how other leaders approach their teams.
Right, right, right. So I
And
think I
and
have seen, yeah.
and just, you're what I'm hearing from you is you're kind of a people forward, people first. And not all companies, you mentioned, Elon Musk, are like that. And
Yeah,
I'm just curious what your experience has been with the executives, the people you meet over the last few years.
yeah, I think it's always they all come in different shapes. Being part of the entrepreneurs organization, when I came across, we had a lot of entrepreneurs who were running companies from a million to $100 million, right? So I think, and everybody had their own philosophies, and I think they evolve as they go along. And I can't pinpoint to. I can only differentiate that you got entrepreneurs who are learning all the time and who obviously are focused on results, and then you have got the corporate executives who are different breed altogether, right? Those are the two distinctions you have. But in entrepreneurs, you have, I think, a great variety of philosophies. They evolve as they develop their business.
Good. I like it. Last question. What's a question you wish people would ask you, but they don't know to ask you, but secretly you wish they would because you'd love to be able to tell them something? What question might that be?
Um, that's a tough one, David. I would think is how do you really identify your blind spots?
It's a good one. And
And
the
I
answer
think
is
I think the answer really is, my grandfather, he used to say you should ask a lot of people for advice. You don't have to take everybody's advice, but you ask when you're doing something very important, ask a lot of people for advice, and then follow your heart, but listen to everybody before taking an action. I think that's very pertinent, is being able to have a group of advisors, group of um, well-wishers who can really uncover your blind spots.
love that. I love that. That's a great question, a great answer. Yeah, it's true. Advisors, other people, mentors will oftentimes see in us things we don't see,
Yes,
and it's really valuable. Yeah, at any level, right? Doesn't matter if it's CEO of Fortune 500. I think everyone's got a blind spot, which is why they call it a blind spot. You don't know it.
right,
So the
right.
problem is you don't know to ask about it, you don't know to research it, you don't know to get help on it. It's a blind spot. And I always
Right.
say this to people. I say, is it possible? Is it possible? Is there a possibility there is something you are totally unaware of, but if you knew about it, you got better at it, that it could totally change your life? Is that even possible? And most people say, yeah, I guess so. Well, that's a blind spot. You don't know to look it up. You don't know to read a book about it. You don't know to watch a video about it. You're totally blind to it. So surrounding yourself by people that can spot it, because sometimes it's glaring for everyone else. So what a great way to end the conversation. Rakesh, if someone wants to learn more about you, get in touch, what would you suggest?
I would say the best way is LinkedIn, to get in touch with me through LinkedIn. That's probably the best way to do it. And I welcome this opportunity, David. You're wonderful. I mean, it's a pleasure to be able to do this with you, and you are such a great host, and I learned a great deal from you as well. So thank you for this opportunity.
You are welcome, and thank you for being such a wonderful guest and for sharing and adding value, especially to people who are listening, whether they're leaders, entrepreneurs, or future leaders. So thank you, Rakesh. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Folks, thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed this, please subscribe, share it with someone else. And until next time, This is Inside the Leader's Mind, and I'm David Susan. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.